The Galactic Council was a group of the most powerful alien species in the galaxy. They controlled the vast territories of hundreds of different worlds. Each species had their own advanced technology, and their fleets were feared across the universe. They thought they had seen everything there was to see. But one day, something happened that shook them to their core. The Council had always believed that Earth, the home of humans, was long dead. It had been 500,000 years since the last human had been seen or heard from. Earth was nothing more than a memory, a planet left behind in the history books. The Council never thought much about it. Earth was a death world, a planet full of dangerous creatures and hostile environments, and the humans who lived there were tough, but they hadn't been a threat for centuries. The last humans were gone, and Earth's resources had long been forgotten by the galaxy. That's why, when the first message came through, no one expected it. The message was a strange one, just a series of numbers, followed by symbols and pictures. The symbols looked old, almost ancient. They didn't make sense at first, but after some time, the best translators and researchers in the galaxy began to study it. As they decoded the message, their faces went pale. The message was simple but chilling. "We are coming." The council members stared at the message in disbelief. The thought that someone, or something, was coming from Earth was almost impossible to believe. The planet had been dead for so long, and humanity was thought to be extinct. But there it was, a clear warning from the past. Something had survived on Earth, something that had remained hidden for thousands of years. And now, it was coming for the Galactic Council. The Council quickly went into a state of high alert. The message was old, but it was clear enough to shake the foundations of the entire galaxy. Who could be behind this? The humans? How could they have survived so long? And why were they sending a message after all this time? What if the humans never really died out? Said the leader of the council, his voice tense. He stared at the message, the words echoing in his mind. Could it be possible? Could humanity have somehow survived the destruction of their homeworld? "I don't know," replied one of the other leaders. "But if they're coming, we need to prepare. We have no idea what they've been doing all these years or what kind of power they possess. We may have underestimated them." The leaders agreed. They couldn't ignore the message, but they also couldn't afford to take it lightly. The Galactic Council had long seen itself as the strongest power in the galaxy. They had dealt with wars, rebellions, and countless other threats, but they had never faced anything like this before. The next few hours were spent in intense meetings. The best scouts and intelligence officers were called in to search for any clues about what might be happening on Earth. After years of research, the Council had nearly forgotten about Earth. There had been no reason to study it anymore. But now, everything was different. The message had to mean something, and if the humans were somehow still alive, the Council needed to know how and why. As the scouts searched the distant reaches of space, the Council continued to plan their response. They feared that Earth's lost fleet of warships could still exist, hidden away on the planet. They feared that humanity's wrath could be even more dangerous than they had imagined. But they also couldn't ignore the fact that the message was a warning that was over 500,000 years old. "We need to be ready," said the Council's chief strategist. "If the humans have returned, we need to know what we're dealing with. They may be more dangerous than we think." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, deep within a hidden asteroid field, something was beginning to stir. Ancient warships that had been dormant for centuries started to power up. These ships, built by humans long ago, had been lying in wait, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy. Their weapons were silent, but now the ships were awakening, and as they powered up, the ship's AI systems came to life. The fleet, which had been frozen in time, began to move. The old human warships were no longer just a relic of the past. They were becoming a powerful force once again. The message had been sent, but now, the true story was just beginning. The Galactic Council had no idea what kind of revenge the humans were seeking. They had underestimated Earth and its people, and as the ancient ships began to move toward the galaxy's core, the Council realized that they were facing something far beyond their expectations. They had ignored the past for too long, and now, the humans were coming back, not just to remind the galaxy of their strength, but to show the Council the true power of Earth's forgotten legacy. The galaxy was about to change forever. Deep within a dark corner of space, hidden away in an asteroid field far from the prying eyes of the galaxy, something was stirring. For thousands of years, it had remained silent, its purpose forgotten by all. But now, after 500,000 years of stillness, a force was awakening. It was the fleet of humanity, once thought to be lost forever. The first ship to come to life was massive. It was an ancient dreadnought, one of the largest ships ever built by humanity. Its hull, once covered in layers of dust and rock, now began to glow as its engines slowly powered up. The ship's massive thrusters hummed to life, breaking free from the asteroid field that had hidden it from the rest of the galaxy. The ship's AI, long dormant, activated, its circuits buzzing with life. The dreadnought's sensors scanned the surrounding space, its systems reporting everything in perfect detail. It was as if the ship had never slept. Its ancient weapon systems began to whir, calibrating themselves for the first time in 500,000 years. The ship was ready for battle. As the dreadnought moved, the other ships in the fleet began to wake up as well. Slowly, one by one, the hidden fleet of humanity's warships powered on. These ships were old, but they were far from weak. They were equipped with advanced technology that had been unmatched when humanity first built them. Their weapon systems were powerful, capable of destroying entire planets with a single strike. The ships may have been abandoned for centuries, but they were far from outdated. The fleet was not just a collection of warships. It was a symbol of humanity's strength, built during a time when Earth had been a thriving civilization, feared across the galaxy. These ships had been designed for one purpose: war. And now, after all these years, they were ready to fulfill that purpose once more. As the fleet moved into position, the commanders of the ships began to make their presence known. The fleet's AI systems, programmed with the knowledge of their human creators, began sending out encrypted signals. The ships moved like ghosts, slipping through space unnoticed by the rest of the galaxy. But the message was clear: humanity had returned. Far away, on the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was in chaos. They had received the strange message from Earth, and now the truth was undeniable. The human fleet was real, and it was coming. The Council had no idea what to do. They had believed that humanity was long gone, nothing more than a footnote in history. But now, the hidden fleet was awakening, and it was moving toward them. The Council quickly mobilized their forces, sending scouts to track the fleet's movements. They hoped to get a head start, to gather information and prepare for whatever was coming. But the human fleet was fast, its advanced propulsion systems allowing it to move across vast distances in no time. It wasn't long before the Council realized that their scouts could not keep up. The fleet was too powerful, too quick, and it seemed to have no intention of stopping. Back in the depths of space, the ships of the human fleet continued to awaken. Their systems were slowly coming online, but their power was growing with each passing moment. The fleet's ancient weapons systems were brought back online, and the weapons of mass destruction that humanity had once created began to hum with power. The ships were no longer just relics of the past. They were becoming the perfect weapons of war once again. The humans had been gone for centuries, but they had not forgotten how to fight. The fleet's AI began to send out signals to each of the warships, coordinating their movements and ensuring they were all working together. The fleet was a single unified force once again, and it was moving toward the Galactic Council. As the ships moved closer to the galaxy's core, their presence became undeniable. The Council could no longer ignore the fleet that was coming for them. They had hoped to keep the humans forgotten, to leave Earth's dark legacy in the past. But now, that legacy was coming back to haunt them. The ships of the fleet moved in perfect unison, their massive forms casting long shadows across the stars. The once forgotten humanity had risen from the ashes, and they were ready to make their mark on the galaxy once more. The Council had thought they could rule without challenge, but they had made a terrible mistake. The humans were back, and they were not coming to negotiate. The first of the human warships entered the outer reaches of the Council's territory, its massive form cutting through space like a knife. The fleet's weapons were ready, and the message was clear. Earth had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council watched in horror as the ships continued their march. They knew that this was only the beginning. The fleet was awake, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it now. The Galactic Council was in chaos. After years of ruling over countless star systems, they had never imagined anything like this could happen. Humanity, the very species they had written off as extinct, had returned. And now, the long-forgotten fleet of Earth was heading straight for them. In the council chambers, the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species sat in a circle, staring at the holographic displays that filled the room. These displays showed the positions of the human fleet, now advancing at an incredible speed. The fleet's ships, ancient and powerful, moved toward the council's heart with terrifying precision. How could this happen? The leader of the Draktar, a fierce reptilian species, growled. "We destroyed Earth. We made sure there was nothing left." His voice was sharp with panic, his red eyes wide with fear. "No one thought the humans could have survived," said the leader of the Izthar, a species known for its advanced technology. "We erased all traces of their civilization. Their ships were supposed to be scrap, their cities reduced to ash." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. For centuries, the Council had believed that Earth was just a distant memory, a death world with nothing to offer. They never expected anything to come from it. But now, the ships of humanity were alive again, and they were heading straight for the Council's territory. The Council's chief strategist, a tall, silver-skinned alien named Elathis, stood up, his hands shaking as he looked over the data. "We've underestimated them," he said, his voice tense. "The humans, they never truly died. They've been waiting, hidden in the dark corners of space, biding their time. And now they've returned, and they are coming for revenge." The room fell silent. The weight of the words hit everyone in the room. Revenge. What could the humans possibly want with revenge? The Council had destroyed their home, their world. They had wiped out humanity, leaving nothing behind. The humans had no army, no ships, no means to defend themselves. Or so the Council had believed. "How can we stop them?" A voice from the back of the room asked. Trembling with fear, it was the leader of the Andorians, a species known for their strong military, but even they seemed afraid of what was coming. "We don't even know how many ships they have," Elathis replied. "Their fleet could be as large as ours, or even larger. We've only seen a small portion of it so far. And those ships, they are old, but they are incredibly advanced. It's like they've been frozen in time, waiting to wake up and strike." The room was filled with panic. Leaders from different species exchanged worried glances, unsure of what to do. They had faced many threats over the centuries, but this was something different. The human fleet, once thought to be nothing but a myth, was real, and it was moving toward them. "They're already entering our outer systems," said one of the Izthar officers, his voice trembling. "Our ships are too far out of position to intercept them. If they keep going at this speed, they'll reach the heart of the Council's territory in a matter of days." Days. The Draktar leader slammed his fist on the table. We don't have days. We need to do something now. The tension in the room was palpable. The council's military leaders began shouting over one another, trying to come up with a plan to stop the humans. But there were too many questions and too few answers. How had the humans survived? How had they managed to rebuild their fleet? And why were they coming for the council now? Elethis took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. We need to gather more information. We need to understand what they have. We can't defeat them if we don't know what we're facing. A small, nervous officer from the council's intelligence division stood up. We've been sending out scouts to track their movements. They're using old human technology, but it's incredibly powerful. We've never seen anything like it. The officer paused, his voice faltering. We've also detected strange signals. The human fleet is communicating with something, or someone. They're not alone. The room went quiet again. The humans weren't alone. Who else could be with them? What other forces were behind the human fleet? The council's panic grew. They had once been the undisputed rulers of the galaxy, but now they were facing a threat they had never seen before. The humans, once a forgotten race, had come back with a vengeance, and now, with every passing hour, their fleet grew closer. We need to prepare for the worst, Elethis said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. We may have no choice but to fight them. If they come for our territory, we will defend ourselves, but we must not underestimate them. The humans will not back down easily. The council members exchanged worried glances. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council was afraid. They had ruled over the galaxy with no one to challenge them. But now, the humans were coming, and they were not going to stop until they had taken what they believed was rightfully theirs. In the darkness of space, the fleet of Earth continued its march forward. The ships were ready. The humans were ready. And the Council's time of dominance was quickly coming to an end. The tension in the Galactic Council chambers reached its breaking point. Leaders from across the galaxy, once confident in their control, now sat in silence, gripped by fear. The human fleet was no longer a myth. It was real. And it was on its way. No one knew what the humans wanted, but one thing was clear. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now they were coming for revenge. As the council members argued over their next move, a new message appeared on the central holographic screen. It was a simple transmission, but its impact was immediate. The screen flickered to life, displaying a clear and unmistakable message. This is your final warning. Leave our territory now, or face the consequences. The fleet of Earth is coming, and we will not stop until justice is served. The message was short, but it carried a heavy weight. The council had expected many things from the humans. Anger, perhaps, or a desire to reclaim their lost world. But this was something different. It was a warning. And the council knew they couldn't ignore it. The room fell silent as the leaders read and reread the message. It was calm, but there was no mistaking the threat behind the words. Whoever had sent the message was serious. The humans weren't coming to negotiate or beg for mercy. They were coming to make the council pay for what they had done. Do they really think they can just waltz into our space and make demands? The leader of the Vokthar species growled. His massive, armored form towered over the others, his voice dripping with anger. We destroyed their world. What can they possibly do to us? Underestimating them again would be a mistake. Elethis, the council's chief strategist, replied in a low voice. We don't know the full power of their fleet. That message, it's not a bluff. They'd been gone for so long, and now they've come back with an army. We need to be prepared. But what if they've only sent a few ships? The leader of the Andorians asked. Maybe they're just trying to intimidate us. Elethis shook his head. The humans never did anything without purpose. This fleet is vast, and they are not here for peace. We've been their enemy for far too long." The leaders exchanged uneasy glances. The warning had hit them harder than they wanted to admit. The human fleet was real, and their threat was no empty boast. The council had thought they could conquer everything, that no one would dare challenge them. But the humans, after 500,000 years of silence, were making their presence known, and they weren't afraid. "We must act quickly," said the leader of the Terran species, a cold-blooded, calculating race known for its brutal efficiency. "We can't afford to sit here and wait for them to attack us. If we strike first, we may have a chance to stop them before they reach the core systems." Strike first. The Izthar leader's voice was filled with disbelief. "That would be foolish. We don't even know what their fleet is capable of. We need more information." But Elithis wasn't so sure. Time is not on our side. Every minute we waste gives them more time to prepare. And they've made it clear that they have no intention of negotiating. The debate raged on, but the council could no longer ignore the reality of the situation. The warning had been sent, and the humans were coming. The question now was how to stop them. Far away, in the vastness of space, the human fleet was advancing. Their ships, though ancient, were powerful. Each one had been designed for destruction, and each one was now under the control of the AI systems that had been dormant for centuries. The fleet was a masterpiece of engineering, built to ensure that no one would ever forget humanity's strength. In the heart of the fleet, aboard one of the largest dreadnoughts, the fleet's commander stood before a massive holographic map of the galaxy. His face was stoic, but his mind was focused. He had heard the message from the Galactic Council, and it only strengthened his resolve. "We are not here to negotiate," he said, his voice calm but filled with authority. "We are here to remind them of who we are. Our fleet has waited for this moment for thousands of years, and now the time has come to reclaim what was taken from us." He turned to his officers, each one standing at attention. "Prepare the fleet for the final push. We will not stop until we've made them understand the cost of their actions." The officers nodded, and within moments, the fleet's engines roared to life. The massive warships began to shift positions, aligning themselves for the journey into the heart of the Council's territory. They had waited long enough. The humans were coming, and this time, there would be no escape. Back in the Council chambers, the leaders were scrambling to make their decisions. The warning had been clear, but now they had no choice but to face the consequences of their actions. The humans had been silent for centuries, but now they were awake, and they were coming with a force that the galaxy had never seen before. The time for diplomacy was over. The only question left was whether the Galactic Council could find a way to stop the wrath of the humans, or whether they would become the next victim in the humans' quest for justice. The Galactic Council's worst fears were unfolding before their eyes. The human fleet, vast and unstoppable, was now moving in toward their heart of power. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful species in the galaxy were no longer confident in their dominance. The humans were coming, and they were bringing an army that no one had seen for millennia. As the fleet's ships advanced, the Council's leaders gathered in the main chamber, staring at the live holographic feed. Their faces were grim, their eyes filled with unease. The fleet of Earth wasn't just a small group of old ships, it was massive, a collection of warships that stretched across the stars. Each ship was a testament to humanity's strength, built to survive the test of time. "Look at them," the leader of the Draktar said, his voice low and tense. "They move like they know they own the galaxy. We thought they were nothing. Now they're coming for us." Elithis, the Council's chief strategist, stood at the front, his brow furrowed in thought. "We can't underestimate them. Their ships may be old, but they are powerful. Every move they make is calculated. They'd been waiting for this moment." A holographic map displayed the human fleet moving closer and closer, its ships each the size of small cities. The humans had clearly spent the last 500,000 years building their strength, preparing for the day they would rise again. The Council had thought they were safe, that no one would remember Earth, let alone be capable of rising from the ashes. What's their next move? The leader of the HFY demanded. We need to know how to stop them. Wait, said Elathis, pointing at the feed. Look at this. Their fleet is spreading out. It's as if they're surrounding us. A wave of panic swept through the room. The human fleet was not just moving to a single location. It was surrounding every major system the Council controlled. The humans were not just aiming for a single strike. They were preparing for a full-scale assault. They'd got us cornered, the leader of the Andorians said, his voice shaking. We don't have the forces to defend everything. We'll have to choose what to protect. We need to act now, the leader of the Vakthar growled. We can't wait for them to make the first move. Our fleet needs to engage. But Elathis raised a hand, silencing the room. No, not yet. We can't just rush into a fight without knowing what we're up against. They're baiting us into attacking first. The leaders of the Council stared at him, unsure of what to do. Time was running out. Every minute they wasted gave the humans more time to strengthen their position. Then the holographic feed flickered, and a new message appeared, sent from the human fleet. It was short, just like the previous warning, but it carried a weight that made every Council leader feel a chill down their spine. We are coming for justice. You have one final chance to leave our space. If you do not, we will show you the full power of humanity. The words hung in the air. The message was clear. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were coming to take back what had been stolen from them. The Council had no choice now. Their options were running out. What do we do? The leader of the Terran species asked, her voice trembling. We can't let them just take over our galaxy. We have to fight. Elathis said firmly, his mind already working through a plan. But we need to be smart about it. We can't just throw our ships into battle without thinking. We need to split our forces, take out their supply lines, and push them back slowly. The Council began discussing their strategies, their voices blending together in a flurry of ideas. But the reality was clear. Fighting humanity would be a nightmare. The humans were not weak. They were strong, resourceful, and relentless. The galaxy had no idea what they were about to face. Meanwhile, aboard the lead human dreadnought, Commander Jason stood at the front, staring out at the stars. The galaxy was within his reach, and with it, the justice he and his people had waited for. His mission was simple: make the Galactic Council understand that Earth would never be forgotten. Prepare for the next phase of the operation, Commander Jason ordered, his voice filled with cold determination. We're moving in. We will make sure they understand that we will not stop until we've taken what's ours. His officers nodded and moved quickly to carry out the orders. Across the fleet, the ships powered up, their engines roaring to life as they shifted into attack formation. The time for waiting was over. Back in the Council's chamber, the leaders were preparing for war. They had no choice now. The human fleet was too powerful to ignore, and they had shown they were willing to destroy everything in their path to get what they wanted. Ready the ships, Elathis said, his voice filled with resolve. We will defend every system we can. We will fight to the end. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As the human fleet moved closer, it became clear that this would be a battle like no other. The humans had returned, and they were not leaving without a fight. The Galactic Council had made a grave mistake in underestimating them, and now they would face the consequences. The final battle had begun. The time for words had ended. The human fleet, vast and determined, was now within striking distance of the Galactic Council's core systems. The stars ahead were filled with the silhouettes of massive warships, each one a testament to humanity's strength and resilience. The council had underestimated them for too long, and now they would face the consequences. In the council's main chamber, the leaders stood in silence, watching the holographic displays that showed the human fleet's advance. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. The message was clear. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to reclaim what was taken from them. "We have no choice," Elathis, the council's chief strategist, said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We must defend our systems. Prepare the fleets for immediate deployment." The leaders nodded, their expressions grim. They had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but the humans had made it clear that they sought justice, not compromise. The council had no choice but to fight. Across the galaxy, the council's fleets mobilized. Massive warships, each bristling with weapons, moved into position. The stars were filled with the hum of engines and the clatter of preparation. The council was ready to defend their territories, but they knew they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Meanwhile, aboard the lead human dreadnought, Commander Jason stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the galaxy. The time had come. The council had ignored their warnings, and now they would pay the price. "Initiate the attack," Commander Jason ordered, his voice cold and commanding. The officers around him moved swiftly, their hands flying over controls. The massive warship shuddered as its weapons systems powered up. Across the fleet, similar actions were taking place. The humans were ready to strike. The first salvo was fired, a barrage of energy beams that streaked through space, targeting the council's defensive positions. The beams hit their marks, causing massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. The council's defenses were formidable, but they were not prepared for the sheer power and precision of the human attack. In the council's command center, alarms blared as the first wave of attacks hit. The leaders scrambled to respond, issuing commands and coordinating their fleets, but it was clear that the humans were one step ahead. Their tactics were precise, their movements coordinated. The council was on the defensive. "We need to counterattack." The leader of the Vokthar species growled, his voice filled with anger. "We can't let them push us back." Elathis shook his head. "We need to hold our ground. If we retreat now, we'll lose everything. We must stand firm." The battle raged on, with both sides exchanging fire. The stars were filled with the light of explosions and the trails of energy beams. Ships were destroyed, debris floating in the void. The human fleet was relentless, pressing the attack with unwavering determination. As the battle continued, the council's leaders realized the full extent of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity, believing them to be weak and insignificant. Now they were facing a force that was not only powerful, but also driven by a deep desire for justice. The humans were not here to conquer. They were here to reclaim what was theirs. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Jason stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the battle unfold. His face was stoic, his eyes focused. He had waited for this moment for centuries, and now it was here. The council would learn that humanity was not to be trifled with. "Maintain the pressure," Commander Jason ordered. "We will not stop until we have achieved our objective." His officers nodded, their faces set with determination. The human fleet pressed on, their resolve unshaken. The council had made a grave mistake, and now they would pay the price. As the battle continued, the council's defenses began to falter. Their ships were powerful, but they were not prepared for the human onslaught. One by one, their vessels were destroyed, their crews lost. The council's leaders watched in horror as their forces were decimated. "We can't hold out much longer," the leader of the Andorians said, his voice filled with despair. "We need to surrender." Elathis looked around at the faces of his fellow leaders. They had no choice. The humans had proven their strength, and the council was on the brink of defeat. "Prepare to negotiate terms of surrender," Elathis said, his voice heavy with resignation. The battle was over. The human fleet had achieved its objective. The Council had been defeated. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity returned to reclaim what was theirs. The Galactic Council had surrendered, but the victory came at a heavy price. The destruction across the galaxy was immense. Millions of ships were lost, and countless worlds lay in ruins. But for Commander Jason and the human fleet, this was not just a battle. It was the completion of a long-awaited mission. As the human ships powered down, their engines humming softly in the aftermath of the fierce conflict, Jason stood on the bridge of the lead dreadnought. His eyes stared out at the stars ahead, but there was no joy in them. The mission was over, but the war was not truly won until the Council understood the weight of their actions. The final surrender message came through, broadcasted across every communication channel. Elathis, the chief strategist of the Council, appeared on the screen, his face pale and worn. We accept your terms," Elathis said, his voice quiet, almost broken. "But know this, human. The cost of this war will be remembered for centuries. Your actions, they have shattered everything." Jason didn't reply at first. He stood in silence, remembering all the years of waiting, the pain of humanity's loss. For 500,000 years, Earth had been forgotten by the galaxy, forgotten by those who had once seen humans as weak and insignificant. But no one would forget them now. Finally, Jason spoke, his voice cold but filled with a quiet determination. "The cost of your actions, Council, was greater than you'll ever know. You destroyed Earth, and we've come to take back what's ours. But we're not done yet. The galaxy will remember why Earth is called a death world." Jason turned to his officers, "Set course for the core worlds. It's time to remind the galaxy who we are." As the dreadnought's engines roared to life again, the human fleet shifted. They weren't here just to win. They were here to ensure that the mistakes of the past would never happen again. The Council had taken everything from them, but the humans had rebuilt, and they were stronger than ever. The galaxy would feel their power, whether it wanted to or not. The Galactic Council, on the other hand, was left in shock. It wasn't just the destruction that weighed on them, but the realization that they had failed to recognize the power of Earth. They had underestimated humanity for far too long, and now they would pay the price for their arrogance. But even in defeat, the leaders of the Council knew they could not let Earth's revenge go unpunished forever. "The galaxy will remember," the leader of the Aizthar growled as he paced back and forth. "This isn't over. The humans may have won this battle, but we will rebuild, and we will strike back." Elathis, however, remained silent. He had seen the devastation. He had witnessed firsthand the determination in Jason's eyes. The humans were not like the Council or any other species in the galaxy. They had the heart and will to rebuild even after centuries of loss. They were relentless, and that made them a force to be reckoned with. As the human fleet moved deeper into the core worlds, the Council's influence over the galaxy began to crumble. The systems that had once been under their control now faced a new reality. The humans had returned, and their message was loud and clear. Earth had been pushed to the edge, but now it would never be ignored again. The battle, however, had shown the galaxy something that no one had expected. The humans were not simply a defeated race, crushed under the weight of time. They were survivors, warriors who had fought for their very existence and returned stronger than anyone had ever imagined. The galaxy had witnessed the true power of humanity, and now they knew that Earth's revenge was just the beginning. On the bridge of the lead ship, Jason turned to his crew. "We've come this far," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We've taken back our right to exist. But we're not finished. We're going to make sure that no one forgets Earth. Not now, not ever." His officers stood tall, their eyes filled with the same unyielding resolve. The battle had been won, But the war for humanity's place in the galaxy was only just beginning. As the human fleet sailed through the stars, they left behind the shattered remnants of the Galactic Council. Earth had risen from the ashes of destruction, and it had done so with a vengeance that no one would forget. The galaxy would tremble at the mere mention of humanity's name, for Earth was no longer a forgotten world. It was a force to be reckoned with. The revenge of Earth had begun, and it would echo throughout the universe forever.